Bose Wave 3-disc CD changer repair. That's our topic for today. Welcome back. This is patchonestripe.com TV repair parts, your #1 source for quality, hard to find TV replacement parts. Today, we're going to show you and give you all the tips that you're going to need. That's if you're a do-it-yourselfer. If you'd like us to repair it, just look at the information below and contact me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you everything that you need to do. I'm going to explain to you why, so that you can make a solid repair on these units the first time you attempt to do them. And all you have to do is have the patience to just follow these steps. So with that being said, be sure to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. After you look at this video, you can give me 2 thumbs up probably after that with all this information I'm gonna give you, all this game I'm gonna give you, okay, on repairing these things. And we're gonna go ahead and get on to the video. Glad to see you back. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get this started. I've done a little pre-work on these, on this cover, these 4 screws. Here they are here, and I'll just leave these over there for right now. Okay, when you take it off, be careful you just don't do a snatch job, because you got a small ribbon cable right over here, and you just could pull it, it'll come on up. And be sure that it's seated properly over here on this side of the unit. Okay, that's when we doing the reassembly. Okay, now this is what I do. Now this particular unit here, we have these 4 mounting screws here, and I hope you can see it. So of course you can see them on this side. You got 2 over here. Now, when you take these units apart, be careful if you use any kind of electric screwdriver or anything, not to have too much torque when you reassembling this unit, because in most cases, even at the top of this unit, where the screw holes are, depending on how old the unit is and where it's been stored, those screw posts could be brittle, and you could crack the plastic. Then you got another mess as far as a loose cover or a loose housing right here once you try to reassemble this back. So you tighten it up just so much and just let it go. Okay, and if you take it apart and you see where the screw post is cracked or anything like that, if you have something that you could put on it to kind of like hold it in place, some kind of glue, epoxy or something like that, I recommend you go ahead and do that. Because once you get these posts and they've shattered, you can almost forget it. You're going to have a big mess. You'll need to try to get your new cover or a new base to mount all this stuff in. And hopefully if you buy one used, hopefully the post on it is not damaged. So if you catch one like this, I call this a virgin unit, because all your screws in here, this unit really haven't been touched. And that's the way you want it, okay? All right, let's keep it moving, okay? What I normally do, I'm gonna show you everything I normally do. I go ahead and disconnect this cable here, and I disconnect this cable because I'm gonna need it disconnected in a minute. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and do these 4 screws holding this assembly in. Okay, and even then, you see, I had a King driver. They were soldered loose. It was good enough. But I got back here to this one, and this King wasn't enough. So really, I should have used this from the beginning. Okay, so all these choices that we make right in the, these right choices as we go, they're going to save us a lot of headache. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and lift this unit out. I'll put this back to the side. So from here, what I normally do is I'll go ahead and take this particular board out. Okay. It's 3 screws. And there's 3 screws. Okay, now after I take this board out, and that's because I've done a few of these, I'm gonna take this board out, but I'm also gonna go ahead and remove this housing that it's mounted to by releasing these 2 screws, like taking them out, okay? Because they're going to be in the way for some things that we're going to do up the road. So we have all that stuff out of the way. And don't be afraid, because you're going to always be able to refer back to this video in reassembling this thing. So trust me, and just go forward with it. Okay, now I'm going to put this aside for a minute, because this is something that I do. First thing I do, I check all these capacitors on this particular control board. And if I have something to change, I go ahead and change it, complete this, get it out the way. So I get out my ESR meter, and if you didn't watch some of my past videos, you know the beauty of this thing. It's accurate, and then you could check capacitors while they're still mounted on the board. And it's an ESR meter, equivalent series resistance. That's what we're measuring. So say as if I got this 220 microfarad, in which the microfarad is on the x-axis, your ohms is on the y-axis. So if I got 220 microfarad, you only got these 2 blocks. If it light up within these 2 blocks, that makes this capacitor good. If it goes in the yellow, by wherever it light up on the side, if it goes up in the yellow, that's to your discretion. But once it hit the red, that lets you know this capacitor is bad. Okay? This capacitor is bad. So I'm going to get on with this. So this particular one here, put this way you can see it, is a 33 microfarad capacitor. So look where it's at. If you go down there to the bottom, your 47 is right there, your 22 is there. This is way up here in the red for both of us, both of those. So in the 47, the 33 gonna fall in between. So what I do is, I take my red marker, I do it on the negative side of the capacitor so I can still see the value of the capacitor, and I put a red mark on it. So I know I need to change this particular one. And we're gonna keep going. This is a 1 ohm capacitor, which is right there. And it's way up the outer range as well, if you could see that. So I'm gonna mark this one to be changed. I'm gonna do one more, because that's an example enough where we won't make this video too long. Now this is a 47, microfarad. Look where it's falling on here. Let me get it. So, let's see. Hold on. Okay, this is a 47. So 47 is right here. It's still in the green. So this is a go right here. I won't mark this one bad. So going forward, so you got these two bad, these two good out of the one that we checked. So you go ahead and check the rest of them. And sometimes you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 capacitors. So if you want to, you go ahead and change all of them if you like. If you're getting enough of them that's bad, just change them, okay? Now, I'm gonna go under this shield right here. And as you can see right there, you got 4 more. So just check them. If you need to change them, they'll change them and be done with it. You know this solid, okay? And that's what I do. This is what I do when I first start. I take my time and I'm focusing on this, not nothing else, this, okay? So let's keep moving on this one. After I do that one, I come to this board in the back. Normally, I have to change this, all these, and this one. That's normally what I have to do with this particular unit. Okay? You got this, I think it's 22 microfarad back here, and all 4 of these is 0.47, and this one here is a 100 microfarad. Normally, all of those are too high. What the hell? Give the people the bang for the buck for their money. Change them out. It's solid. It'll be solid for a while. We got that part behind us. Okay? Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the changer itself. Okay? We're going to go over here to the changer itself. So let me point out some things I do off the top. And I'm going to point some things out that you all might not know about. Right here, you got 3 micro switches. I normally just give them a drop, not no spray, because you don't want to have lubricant all over this. I control that pressure on that nozzle, so it just give me a drop. I watch it in the straw. I give them a drop, a drop, a drop, and then I work them. So you got 3 right here that I do that to. Let me show you something else. Okay? We got 3 right here that I also do it to. Just a drop, a drop, a drop, a drop. That's it. No spray, no blast, don't do it. Now, this is a switch as well. So I'll give it a drop or 2, you know, to get down in here. And normally by then I'll have this apart, and then I'll work it a little bit before I put it back together again. So back here in this back part here, we got some critical things happening. You got 2 switches under this gear, you got 2 switches under here, and you got a switch under here. What I normally do is, while we doing this cleaning and lubricating things, I'll go ahead and do them all. Do everything. While I won't forget nothing, I do all of them. And what I do back here is, on this particular gear right here, you got a square notch that goes into this other gear here. See where the black mark at? When you're putting it back together, because you're gonna have to take this off to put a drop or two on the little micro switches under here, and you're gonna have to have that where it match. It'll be round up in here somewhere thereabout. Wherever it is, that's cool. Just be sure when it rotate, it'll line up with the square going to the square in the other one. So what I'll do here is, I'll go ahead and get one of my miniature screwdrivers, and I'll pop this off. And like I said, have confidence in the process, because I'm not gonna leave you hanging. And I gotta pop this little wash off, little lock wash. It got a split in it, and you don't want it flying everywhere. So if you hit it just right, it'll come on off, and you just set it to the side. And then you just take this gear up, and you see 2 switches right here, right here. I give them a drop. I also have a double switch under here, in which I don't take all this metal part off of here. I just spray a little bit so it could get there, and hopefully I could be able to work them and lubricate them. Just a drop. And I also got this little miniature switch right here. I'll put a drop on it, and I'll work it to be sure it's working. Okay? You know, the reason why I'm doing all this stuff is because I don't want to just hit all the stuff that seem to be, okay, well, I changed the capacitors, I'm going to put them back together. Well, and then something going, it ain't acting right. Well, suppose it's just one of these switches is intermittent that's holding you back. So while we got it broke down, let's cover all that stuff and just get it out the way. So this is another thing I'm gonna do. If you could see this top gear right here, I'm gonna take that off, and I'm gonna explain to you why I'm gonna take it off. So, somebody greased it up real good, you know, hoping that the grease solved the problem, but grease is not the answer. Okay, I got the lock washer off. Okay, put this where you could see me. And I'm gonna take this off. It's gonna be a little tight, like it's loaded with pressure, and that's because it probably is. So I'm gonna take this off now. This is gonna be one of the important parts. That's why I'm telling you, trust the process. Now, see how this thing, now this moves? And it moves this one here too. I'm using this one and move both of them. They working together. Well, right here, you got a mark in the chassis. And on this one down here, you got a mark in the chassis down here. Well, you want, and you got a mark on this part here that's moving. So what you want to do is, before you put this thing back together, you want to be sure these 2 marks line up. You want to put them where they line up. Now, the reason why you need these to line up, because it's going to be very important when you put everything back together, initializing that everything is right on target, it's going to work. Trust me, it's going to work. So once you get everything lined back up like this, and you've already sprayed your switches, right? Let's put this gear I took out. Let's get it back in here. Try to keep these marks lined up, these 2 marks. Let's keep them lined up, because they're going to be very important for your timing and everything once you get everything situated. You work this a little bit here, and keep your eyes on your marks. See? So my marks is thereabout. They pretty much where they need to be, because this gear gonna lock them down in place. And I go ahead and get my washer for that particular gear, and I go ahead and lock it in. Press it down and it'll lock in. and hold that gear in place. So we're there on that one. Now we didn't put the drop on all of this, right? And we're gonna put it back together. So remember when we took this apart, I told you that there's a square part right here on this black area right here. It's the only square part, and it needs to match. It needs to match with the other gear. So let's put that down on there, and let's be sure they match. There they go. They match. Whether you have a mark or not, it's the only one square. Just put it on that, no particular place, and let's lock it down. And trust me, this is gonna make everything fall into place for you. And I'm about to show you why it's gonna make everything fall in place. So let's flip this back over. So we didn't lubricated all our gears and everything so far, right? So we got that out the way. I done showed you everything you need to lubricate. We got that out of the way. We done. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this cassette housing out, and we're gonna see what's going on with it. Plus, where I just lined up the two marks, this cassette housing, it need to be in a certain position in order to match where everything is in this initial position where it need to be, so it'll start up and everything will be synchronized. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and take this stuff apart so I can show you some things with that. And this is the beauty of what I'm showing you. If you just follow these steps and trust me, like I said, when you put it all back together, man, it's gonna work like magic. You don't have to go back and I'm gonna retry this, I'm gonna try this, let me figure this out. No, you don't have to do all that. Yeah, you won't have to do none of that at all. Everything's gonna work. So when you're taking this part off, now you see this one notch, but they got a notch that goes under this part right here. So it gotta be under there when you reassemble this. That's important. And also, we'll go ahead and take it up and take it out. Now, can you see the little notch I was telling about? It needs to be under that black part. It has to be under there. And also, what you have is this thing here. It comes out. And you gotta be sure it goes back in. It's notch, it has a little notch on there where it goes, and one of the notches, it goes into this slotted area back here, and the other one goes mounted right there. So it goes back in there like so. So you'll fill this in, and then you fill that one in place. See there? You gotta be sure you put that back in there. Can't leave that out. If you're not sure, rewind the video and go back over it. Okay, now we're gonna finish taking these screws out. Now, when we take these screws out, this part gonna come up. Now, what we're gonna be doing, see you got your little brass washer. Be sure you get your brass washer. You're gonna have 3 of them. 2 of them gonna be under this piece here. Now, to take this piece off, you got this edge and all that, you can leave that on. You don't have that to worry about. But you do have this little screw here that has to be taken out in order to release this part, and you have to release that part. Set that over there. So we take this off. Set this over here. It's one-way stuff. And let's get our brass washers. Let's get our brass washers, put them up. Because they need to be there. Now, let's go over here. You know, I showed you this switch that we need to spray, right? Now we're going to take it apart. And not the switch itself, but just from where it's mounted at. We're going to dismount it. And that's with this one screw. And as you can see, there it is. So you want that out of the way because all this fork part gonna come up when I bring all this up. Okay, so there we are. Now with this, you got access to your laser, which is here if you need it out. This screw is gonna take out the notch that helps it run against this lead screw here, but you got to take out these pieces if you need to replace the laser. Okay? So, but the main part is because we've taken this thing apart for the electronics and the lubrication. When we get ready to put this thing back together, we've initialized the mechanical part on the bottom of this, remember? So the initialization part on this part is just screwing these gear down till it bottom out. Not hand tight, till it just bottom out. Okay? So if you had to change into that, you move these around, that ain't no problem. Bottom them out, and be sure that these things, they solid. See, they spring and they solid. Because sometimes, I'm gonna put this up here for you. Sometimes this plastic part here, see this part here at the I'm gonna say the top, because if it's sitting upright, this will be the top. Well, this is not threaded. This is threaded up right here. This plastic piece here is threaded. And sometimes they break. So when they break, it could cause the housing to do some noise, make that noise, do some, uneven going up, break parts, because they all plastic. They got a little age on them. They could be brittle. It could cause them to break. So if you find one, some people take the two pieces, glue them back together, and go on. But I have some spares that I have, and I just replace that screw part so that it's screw precise. Because that's what they all about, see? Because it's going to take you to the height of this 1, this 2, this 3. But they got to do it evenly. So that's why it's so important. Yeah, that's why it's so important that you check these out and be sure they're not broke. This little nut that this plastic screw drives up and down on, be sure it's not broken. If it's broken, you have to repair that little nut thing or you replace it. Nothing else will do, okay? You can't get by, maybe it'll work, nothing like that. You're gonna have to find a donor and get these screws out of there to redo it. That little nut thing to put a new one in there that's not broken. Other than that, it's not gonna work once you see that. You could stop the process right there. So still, here I go. I'm putting them back, just bottom them out to the touch. And now I'm going to show you something with this particular unit that I saw earlier. When I first got into it and took the cover off, this second CD, they got a little sleeve. They got a little sleeve that, the little arm that go into this little track here. And I noticed this number 2, it's not in the track that keeps it level to do what it's doing. It's in the way of the CD actually. Number 3 is fine as well. So what I'm gonna do here is just release this spring, and each one of them gotta have a spring. And remember, you got this switch over here, these 3 switches that it trigger. We're gonna just release this and take them apart, take them out of here one by one till I get to this second one. I'm gonna turn it so I can work it better. Okay, get it out that notch, and look, watch when I get it out this notch. I just need to get the spring out, that's it. And they come up. Now, I'm gonna do this to this second one that's not in the track, because it probably had because like I say, it had a CD in here that was stuck. So somebody did something to force something. Ain't no doubt in my mind. So now I need to take this number 2 up and reinstall it, and you'll see the slot. I hope you can see this. The slot is halfway, this half moon. It's right there where this little arm go in there. You can see this one where the arm is in there. Well, you got to put it in that because the open slide is where the CD comes in and out of the changer to play. So now I'm gonna go back. When I do the reinstall, I'm gonna be sure I got this little guide here in this half of this half a moon slot. Then I'm gonna put it back together, okay? Put it down in there and reload the spring. So let's do it. And see, it's so simple. You'll think it's complex and it scare you, and you know, you're trying to do something that's impossible. This stuff here is a thinking game. It's a logical game where it's just like a puzzle. Now, see, it's back in the slot. It's moving and gonna load like it should. Now I'm gonna take this top one, put this little part thing back up in here. And this is just in case somebody run into this, because you never know where your problem gonna be. You know, you could have bought one of these things off of eBay where an amateur that got into it, and it seemed like you got a bad deal because he moved stuff that he didn't know how to put back, or he didn't know how to put that mechanical part into the initialization points, what I showed you. You see? Or he didn't know how to set this carriage where the CD goes in and out. See, he didn't know how to do that. To just bottom this out, and that's your point of initializing everything. So you go back with it, and this also, look at this. This is the initialization point for this thing too now, because this is gonna be a part of your disc coming in and out. Okay? So look where your initialization point for these things is right here. And be sure they're right there when you start. If you do exactly what I just told you to do, after you done did the electronics parts with the capacitors, you know, you solid on your luber and your switches, you solid on reinitializing these mechanism back here and line them up with the line. You've bottomed out these guides right here on these lead guides lead nuts. They got a name for them. They anti-something. I just can't think of them right now. And I'm just going to roll through this video. We ain't going to get caught up in that. That's a tech thing. You know, when I say that's a tech thing, we trying to get the job done. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this thing back together. And this is another thing I want to show you. For somehow, if this thing here get lifted up any kind of way, well, you got this notch right here in it. And if you look through this little slot right here, you're going to see a little nub there. This thing has to be over that nub. Okay? It has to be over there. Because it's a part, it goes all the way back to this gearing right here. Well, we got to put this thing on. Well, we got to put this thing on. That's why it's important. We got to put this thing on, okay? So this little notch in this plastic has to go over this little notch. You'll see it if you turn it where you can see it, and it's in position. That's it, no problem. So now we're going to go ahead and put everything back together. And I wish I had time where I could just show you my complete process and show you the 100% of it, because it works. When I go through it and I do what I just described to you all, it plays every time, unless you get, now one thing you can look out for, and all this causes you from second guessing yourself, and it keeps you from all these random thoughts. What if this messed up? What if that? Is simple. It's not that complex. After you do everything, you done eliminated being a switch that's having a bad connection. We've done all the capacitors and on the power supply and the control board. We realigned everything. We'll realign this thing here. Got it in its right place. Let me see. Be sure it's in its right place. See, you just move this little notch here, and it's set down right there. Okay, we got that in its right place. You got it all back together, and it comes on and look like it's doing an initialization process or something, and then it just stop. Where this housing here don't move at all, where 99% of the time, either you didn't connect the laser back, and if you did, you got a bad laser. Because it's going to do a check on your laser too. So if you done did all that, and it go through a little process and it stop at one where it's checking the laser, and this part here goes up and down like that, you got a bad laser. Or you didn't connect something back. See? So all this stuff makes it simple. What I'm showing you. I'm giving you the game, okay? I'm giving you the game. So if somebody run across one of these, you know, you're not out here beating your head and trying to figure it out, spending 2-3 days on it, all that stuff there. It's going to be no need for that. If you follow this recipe that I give you, don't mess with nothing but what I showed you, especially if you got a nice virgin one. Man, this gonna be money honey here. No problem. So once I get this down, because I had to put this in place where it goes into this little fork down here, if you remember that, I'll be sure everything engaging. So the way I do that, if I move one, the other two ought to move where they secure in the gearing down here at the bottom. Done. Okay? So now we start putting everything back together. All right? First, I like to go ahead and put these brass washers on here. And then we'll go ahead and put this back because it was the last thing we took off. we're going to let this be the first thing we put back on here. Okay, let me get my little screw here. And I raise it up. That's it. That's back in place. So now, like I say, let's double check that. You can look through this crack and be sure that little notch is in this plastic notch. Okay? And we do the same thing with this piece over here. Let's get our brass washer. And let's put this back on here. See, it's in place, it's solid. Get that one screw, because we had one screw, because the rest of the screws gonna go on this top part over here. Okay, now, remember this piece here. Let's put this back in here. It's notched up to go in this slided hole over here, and it has its place over here. And you'll feel it flatten out once you got it in place. That has to be right. And let's go here. Remember, I told you all about this little double fork deal happening here. One go under, the other one is visible. Okay, while you're putting that on that has to happen. So, can you see? That happened. All you're seeing is this one notch. And that little thing that stood up by itself, it should fall in this hole. So, okay, I've went ahead and put this in. Remember the fork part and the one notch showing and the one under here? So I did that and I screwed down everything, and the little angle piece, it has a little slide in here that holds it in place. You'll know it's in place. Okay, we just doing a little recapping. This slide and this little notch on this little arm here, it's in place. So we're solid here. Ain't no looking back on this, okay? We're solid. Okay, now we got these ribbon cables hanging, right? So let's go back with this. We're doing this as if I've already repaired the board. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it completely together. So after you do what you have to do, and if you need to, you could come back to this video and pick up where you left off at or whatever, you know, if you get lost on it. But if you just have the patience and go through the process, I promise you, when you do this and you plug it up, it's gonna work. You know, if it stopped, it's just like I told you earlier, you got a bad laser or you didn't connect something back up with the laser. It's gonna be one of the two. But it won't be the timing, it won't be none of that with the gearing, it won't be none of that. Just take your time and have some fun. the thing that's going to take the most time is pretty much with the capacitors, you know, replacing those and everything. Yeah, that's going to be what's going to take you some time. And I'm going to mention this to you while I'm giving you the game on this stuff. When you got these screws that's made for plastic and it seems like they not lining up or they going in crooked, screw them backwards till they click and then go forward. They'll go right on down in the hole. And you especially want to remember that when you're screwing down this case and everything. You don't want to force it because the plastic is a brittle type plastic anyway. And the last thing you need is to do a fine job on this, and you done bust out all the screw posts on it, and then you got a sloppy cover on it. And see, anything like with your connectors that have these two ears on them, you have to be sure these things are down together, both of them. I had recently had an issue where I replaced the laser, and I did one side, and the other side I just didn't pay attention, was up, and when the laser got to moving, everything checked out, it's playing good, everything. But as the laser moving, it pulled out one side, and that was something that had to come back to me. So I'm telling you where nothing won't come back to you. Check them. Check everything that had these ears to plug in. That'll be the laser and this connection here for sure. And be sure they down and snug and tight. I mean, I'm really just giving y'all all this game. You know, y'all really ought to shoot me some paper too for all this, okay? Oh man. Yeah. So, we got all that together. Now we're gonna put this one back together. Okay. And we're going to pretend we done worked this one as well and got that back. And we're going to find our way into putting this thing in place. And we got this. We got this ribbon cable right here that go from the power supply to the main board. We need to put it in place. Be sure it's in there snug. And then, here we go. We're going to screw this thing down right here, this CD housing. And remember what I told you. If it don't seem like it's going in there, go backwards first till you feel it pop. And this thing ought to find the grooves and it ought to screw in easy. You don't have to do it gorilla tight or none of that, okay? Because that plastic is delicate. You just need it snug. But also it's not built to start a new hole neither because it's plastic. So if you go backwards, you'll feel it pop. And then you go forward, look how easy that screw in. Get them in there, go backwards first. Does it seem like it done found this place? And it'll screw right on in. But as far as, like I said, don't do it any other way but like that. Okay, Hercules, Hercules. Don't do it. All right, see that? Snug and tight. Everything in place. All right, and also while we had this cassette part disassemble, you could also went in there and clean your eye on your laser. Like I use a lens cleaner and a Q-tip. And I soak the one part of the Q-tip and be sure I get in there, and then I take the other side that's dry and I take it around on the eye of the laser in case of residue or something like that. Okay? So, let's get this position here. So now, let's go back to this deal here. So you got a ribbon cable here that slips into this. You got a slot for it here. Be sure it's secure and even. And what I like to do is, I like to have everything turned like this and then put this other one in place. But I like to do it from the side. And you know where it goes. It goes right here on the side, right? So let's see if I can turn it where you can see me do it. You can see me do it from here. See it make it so easy? Look, backwards you could say, and it's right there in your face. And you just put that in place. Put the top on it. Put these 4 plastic screws in the bottom. And remember, don't force them. Don't do it, because them posts self-destruct, and this thing will be loose for if you're going to sell it or if you're doing it for a customer, it's going to make a bad job. Go backwards first, and sometime you'll feel it like it'll pop. You know, like it done sunk down, found this place. And then it should be an easy screw in. And just do them snug. You don't need to do gorilla tight, because it's not gonna take it. It won't take it. With that being said, I just gave you everything you need to know to do a good job on this unit. Like I said, the only thing that would have took me a little time was putting the capacitors on there. And I like to go back with those aluminum electrolytic capacitors, especially for this unit, so they're short and they won't get into the mechanical mechanism of the CD player, okay? And that's why don't use those regular electrolytic, because they're gonna be too tall. You're trying to lay them down, do all that. Been there, done that, ain't worth it. Get you some aluminum electrolytic capacitors and put the right thing in there. What came in there, put it back in there. A lot of engineering went into play to get this thing built like this. And they did everything for a reason and save yourself some time and headache. And with that being said, look how long it took me to do all of that and put this thing together. Minus, you could save, if I had all the capacitor values in my hand, had them here, in which I got them, that's how I do them. I have them right here. It would have taken me half an hour to 45 minutes to take out all the capacitors and replace them. You add that to it, and this job is done. If I had all that done, I'd power it up right now. This will play, no doubt in my mind, because I've covered every avenue that could cause me a problem. Oxidation on a switch. I did the initialization on the mechanical as well as the cassette carriage. I did all of that, okay? It'll play, it'll be ready to go. So now you're a professional. You got the key. I done gave it to you. Make it happen. Do a complete job. If you ain't got time to do it right, when you gonna find time to redo it? Okay? So with that being said, patchonestripe.com, TV repair parts, your #1 source in quality replacement parts. Hard to find replacement parts. Subscribe. Give me a thumbs up for this video. If you like, they got a link. You could drop me some cash in PayPal, okay? Because with what I just told you, you're going to make some money off of these. If you just want to go buy the broke ones and repair them, with what I just showed you, you're going to get your money worth, okay? All right, with that being said, it's the same thing over and over. I got so much to do, I got to go. We'll see you the next time.